Welcome to Avenue M. My name is Joey Taylor.
And I am Haroon Mogul.
We're two men on a journey of faith and meaning. In each episode, we sit down with a remarkable guest to unpack the moments that shape us, the struggles that build us, and the questions that intrigue us. This week's guest is John Faherty. John is the director of Cincinnati's Mercantile Library. We talked to him about why he chose to stay in Cincinnati, the library's history and mission, and how it fosters civic dialogue and cultural life. He also shares personal stories about his faith journey and surviving a pancreas transplant while emphasizing gratitude, empathy, and striving to live a present life in honor of his donor.
More personal note, are you from Cincinnati?
I am not from Cincinnati. I have lived here, I think about 13 years, and I love it. But I grew up in Chicago and Massachusetts.
So what brought you to Cincinnati?
I think the same as literally every other person I've met. Their wife got a job. So I was a trailing spouse, came to work at the newspaper at the Cincinnati Enquirer, where I was for about 4 years, and I've been at the library ever since, but came for work. But I feel kind of Midwestern. So my parents at the time were aging. Only one is still aging, but so it just felt good to get back to the Midwest.
So, go ahead, Joey.
I was going to say, have you ever considered leaving Cincinnati since you've moved here?
No, you know what? I love it here. I made good friends. I got a cool job. I am no longer a trailing spouse because I am no longer married to that spouse, and I am married to a Cincinnati native, whose mom and dad are here, and who we each have children here. So I think I'm pretty rooted.
So I guess I want to ask this question because people listening, Cincinnati is often a blank space in people's minds, maybe just generically gets lumped in the Midwest. So if you've never thought about leaving, what is it about Cincinnati that you find, and in fairness, you have a very cool job, which we will talk about. It's genuinely a fascinating role, but beyond that,
I really like the size of it. I rode my bike into work and back yesterday. That's like a 5-mile bike ride, which is just really pleasant. I like that this city is big enough that I still haven't been to all the restaurants I want to go to. I'm not super cultured, but I know there's a really good opera and ballet and symphony and all that stuff. But it's also small enough that I feel like you can kind of make a difference in this city. You can, if you want to get involved and you're earnest, I feel like it's a city that you could still make a difference. You can make a change. You can. It's an accessible city.
I love that answer. A place where you can make a difference. For people who are transplants, like the three of us are here in Cincinnati, do you have any advice for them and when their intention is to put down roots, personally, professionally? What would you advise them?
I think I'm not sure if you guys how long you've been here, but there was this big debate, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years ago about, is Cincinnati welcoming to strangers? And a lot of people fell on the line of, no, it's polite, but it's not welcoming. Which I presume that's because of all the Germans.
I'm glad you said that.
Certainly well-mannered. Yeah, I'm here to say what needs to be said or shouldn't be said. I think, this is trite advice, but just be sincere. If just try it. just if you want to be here, just like actually try it. I didn't eat chili for like the first 7 or 8 years that I got here because I was like, that's not chili, that's not spaghetti. I'm too good for Skyline.
Okay, so can you tell folks what are you talking about when you're talking about chili? Because a lot of folks might not know that Cincinnati is
Oh, all right. So
infamous for
Cincinnati
chili.
has this well-known delicacy of a kind of a food of mixed origin. It's got some Lebanese influences, and it's called chili, but it's served on standard spaghetti as a rule, and then with chili on it, and this brick of cheese, and I just thought that's and it's not chili like you would think of as like a big bowl of chili, and it's certainly not spaghetti. It's kind of a it's kind of a mix, and it's really peculiar, and it's cheap, and you look down your nose at it, and then your kids convince you to go have a bowl, and you're like you think, why did I spend 5 or 7 years not eating, not trying this? This is so stupid. I should have tried it and liked it a long time ago. It's kind of a story of Cincinnati.
So wait, one, I didn't know that there was a Lebanese connection
I think
to.
he's lying about that, Haroon. I think
No,
it's to
he's
make
not.
it more cultural.
I feel like John
cool.
knows a lot about things.
I there it was Middle Eastern people sometimes get into the restaurant industry, especially like places that they could open up as immigrants, like quickly and affordably. And this fits right into that. And so, yeah, they brought some of their own spices with them. And hold on, it's Jordan, Lebanon.
Oh shoot!
So now you're just saying they're all kind of the same? Is that what's happening?
Wait, no, I think it's Lebanon.
Okay. Is it Lebanon, Ohio, or Lebanon, the country?
It's definitely Jordanian.
Oh boy!
Are different countries.
Well, at least we were talking to a librarian about facts. That's good.
Thank God. I am knowledgeable to a fault, I'd say.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. So you've been here 13 years. I've been here 5 years. I mean, a lot like you. My wife grew up here, and so we moved here during COVID. I did not know what to expect. I have to be honest, there was quite a fair bit of trepidation, but I've come to really like it. And I think one of the things there is sometimes a kind of insularity and parochialism that I find a little bit difficult. But at the same time, I also feel like there's an openness and a sincerity, and there's ambition. It's just very different. And I think one thing that definitely struck me, and I'll be totally honest, because I grew up in the New England area, then New York for a long time, and I did have I looked at the Midwest like you, John, looked at Chile, right? So it was kind of like, why, this doesn't.
Disdainfully?
Yes, exactly, right? Like, is it going to give me a stomach ache? That was basically, that was the arc of it. But I do think actually, and it's a weird thing to say in this moment, I feel like people are more open and welcoming in many respects here than I did find in many places on the East Coast. And I often found that conversations across cultures and religion and race are often actually a lot easier and a lot warmer here than they were in many other places. It sounds kind of strange. I don't know if you feel like this, Joey, but I feel like I can be more myself here in many respects than I could be in a place like New York, certainly Washington, D.C., where there's a lot of pretense about embracing and accepting, but not a lot of follow through. Yeah. I don't know.
John says that. You agree with that, John? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I found I had a distinct advantage. I moved here as a newspaper reporter, and all I did was talk to people. I had this kind of silly beat when I first moved here. The editor said, I want you to talk to people who were doing interesting things. Well, it was amazing. It had this stupid name. I can't remember. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, writing for this paper that's smaller than the paper I left, writing like newsmakers. And she was 100% right. There was it was just people doing interesting stuff. And so I met everybody. I was writing, 5 stories a week on this. So I met everybody in this city in the first 4 years, I think. And it just turned out to be, I agree with Haru. Like, these people will welcome you into their homes. Harun's been to my home. I've been to his. Um, and we just met at the library, I think, right? The library?
Yeah, I think that's where we met at Mercantile Library, to be clear. That's where
Yeah.
you do very cool things.
That's
But
why I
I'm not
said
gonna get over
the library.
the library. My apologies. Is the
Capital
if
T
you are
is
in
file.
yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like in New York, they just call it the city, It's there's no other city, right? So in Cincinnati, but here the problem is people listening might think that there's actually no other libraries in Cincinnati.
Correct. No,
And
there's
then
a huge and wonderful public library system in Cincinnati. One of the best in the country.
yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll ask this. I know Joey has a question, but I'm gonna beg your permission, Joey, and just ask, how the heck did you end up running the Mercantile Library, which is, I believe, what, like 190 years old or something like that?
190 years old this week.
This week.
Last week, this
Last week.
month,
Fair enough. This month. Fair enough. Yeah.
recently, we are
This
100,
year. This
we're
year.
190 years old, as approximate as Jordan is to Lebanon.
Okay.
Are you allowed to swear on this program?
Are you, or am I? You
Me.
are. You are, of course.
All
Go
right.
ahead. Yeah.
I have to tell you, I still have no idea how I got that job. It's the coolest job in the world. All right, so I work at this place called the Mercantile Library, which was created in 1835 because at the time there were no public libraries. The idea of public libraries in this country did not exist, or other countries largely. So 45 businessmen formed the Mercantile Library because they thought, and it was such a great way to form a library, they thought we are just as smart as those rich guys. These were merchants, they were shop owners, and it was like the birth of the American middle class. Never before had people who weren't born into money had money. It was the first time ever. It used to be you were born rich, you stayed rich. That was your fate. If you were born poor, you stayed poor. That was your fate. And it was, as true then as it is now. But for a brief window in the 1830s, poor people could rise up and open their own shops and become wealthy and have time on their hands for the first time. And they formed a library, which is just such a great thing to do. They wanted to, we were still trying to live up to, I guess, what would be their mission statement in 1835, which was to democratize knowledge. And we still exist today because 10 years into our existence, the building burned to the ground twice in a short window. And then the building owner said, we're out, we quit. We don't want to be building owners anymore. We're losing our shirts. And the library members in 1845 came up with $10,000 in a very short order, like a week, and gave it to the building owners and said, this is a gift. Please build your building with this money. And all we want in return for these $10,000 is a 10,000-year lease. And I think the building owners thought they were like, who are these clowns? They're giving us $10,000 and all they want is a place for their books. Well, now we're year 180 of our 10,000-year lease, which we pay $1 a year, which we paid up front. So we are rent free, which allows us to be a spectacular library. It allows us to bring in incredible authors. the job for the director came open, and because I'm an idiot, I thought, oh, I'm going to apply for that job. Nobody's going to want that job. Of course they'll hire me. And I got to get out of print. I got to get out of journalism. It's going away. It's getting sadder and sadder, and newsprint is getting, the paper's getting smaller, and the staff is getting smaller. So I thought, oh, I'll apply for that job. This is great. And the valuable lesson that I learned, this is an inflection point, is I applied for the job because I didn't think anyone would want it, because I thought this isn't that great of a job. Well, had I known how great of a job it was, and had I known how many people were in fact going to apply for it, and it was well over 100, I would not have applied. And like, that's the lesson I learned. Like, I would have said no to myself instead of giving them a chance to say no to me. And then those fools never got around to saying no to me. So I've had the job now for like 10 years, and I've actually, I think, been pretty good at it. But that was like, honestly, it was such a valuable life lesson for me. It was like, I would have, how many times do we say no to ourselves because we think, oh, that won't happen? I mean, I have a lot of confidence. It's not like I thought I wasn't good enough.
Yeah,
I think I'm good enough for anything, but I thought there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to get that job. And I wouldn't have applied, and I did, and I got it. So that was my inflection point.
So you say they took a chance. Do you think they took a chance on you, or you took a chance on yourself?
I think they took a chance on me. I mean, I wasn't a librarian. I have never worked in a library. I had a little free library in front of my house.
Did you bring that up in the interview?
I mentioned that as part of my experience.
I have a bookshelf.
It is a very well curated little free library. So I'd say they definitely took a chance on me. I think they thought. I think they thought he's from Cincinnati. He's got to be the best candidate.
Little do they know that you weren't from Cincinnati, but you do know random facts about the chili. So that's good.
Yes.
I have a question about your role as the curator of the library. Kind of going back to this idea of the Midwest. Do you think there's a particular kind of emotional or creative tone that you're trying to hit on when you're curating different amazing speakers you're bringing in? You're thinking about the books that you're wanting to feature, that kind of thing.
That's a great question. I don't think so. I mean, I think there is a Midwestern reader, probably. It's kind of a no bullshit reader. Like, just tell me a story. Don't sprinkle a few sentences in there, E.E. Cummings. How about some periods and some commas? Just like why are you making this so hard? I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean,
what do we think about the emotional creative tone of the Midwest?
No, do you think there is a Midwestern reader?
I don't know if there's a Midwestern reader. I was thinking more of like the kind of like the cultural situatedness of the city in terms of not just the reader, what their expectations are, but the larger kind of cultural environment. I think what you're hitting on makes some sense to me. More direct, less kind of superfluous. That makes some sense to me, I think. I don't know. I think there's a feature here that hits on some of those hospitality themes as well. There's a warmth and approachability to the culture, to the art forms. I don't know. That's me kind of shooting from the hip. Haroon, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna make an analogy to airports, and not just because there's a Pakistan International Airlines little model plane behind me, but I was gonna say, when you land in an airport, the airports I love the most are the ones where I feel like I have a sense of where I've landed. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like the airport looks like the place I'm in. Maybe it challenges me, surprises me, but it feels like it belongs in this place. And I do think that I guess the way I see it is I don't necessarily see it in the authors you invite. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean when I go to a Mercantile Library event, I feel the culture of Cincinnati and the Midwest in the questions, in the people and the responses and the energy in the room, the ways in which people pick up on certain themes and don't pick up on certain themes. And maybe it's coming from, you've had some amazing authors and creatives come in, and on a number of occasions, I've been really surprised by how they've been received and the types of questions they get. And I think to myself, and I think we all just do this, would I have heard this question in New York or Chicago? It's not that the question is better or worse, it's just different. So I guess I always feel like I find a culture and energy at Mercantile and in Cincinnati institutions. It's really unique. I don't know how I would describe it though. I mean, maybe the no bullshit thing is part of it. I think there's also a warmth. There's a willingness to take a person as a person. There's a kind of leveling effect. Like there's not a halo around the author. There's
Oh
not a
yeah,
self.
no.
There's no self-congratulatory tone. Like, aren't we so cool because we're at a book event, and now we can justify to ourselves why we spend $8,000 a month in rent. That kind of thing. Which I think you get a lot of in certain places. But I guess I would actually kick it back and I would say, do you ever think about how people would respond in a peculiarly like Cincinnati way or Midwestern way when you think about an author, when you say, "Hey, we should bring her in, we should bring this person in.
Oh,
This is what Cincinnati needs." Like, how do you frame that
yeah. I mean,
decision?
yeah, like I can tell you that the authors who come to the events, and authors kind of do events for a living sometimes. Um, they speak invariably about what a great audience it was, and they all mention, like, I think, I think they've read the book, and you're like, it's so great. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I promise you, they read the book. They did their homework. They were going to this event on Thursday night. So the Thursday before, they picked up the book and they read it. And authors love it. I mean, they go all, we get handwritten. I got a handwritten note from Timothy Egan, who was here last week. And it was just like this really thoughtful note about what an incredible experience he had. And it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the library and the audience for his event. Um, and Midway, like one of the things I like about Cincinnati, it used to drive me nuts, but I've grown to love it, is like Cincinnati loves, like, still has a little bit of a little bit, and it's diminishing, but a little bit of an inferiority complex. Like a lot of times these people who come to an event are so happy that this person chose to come to Cincinnati. They're like, they came here. Um, and that used to drive me nuts. I'm like, of course they came here. This is a great place. But it does make people a little warmer and a little sweeter. The authors love it. But we do, I think, like a lot of people, I've been focused a lot on, diversifying. When you ask, like, what are we thinking about when we're bringing in authors? Um, we need to, we haven't done a great job historically diversifying our membership. We haven't done a great job diversifying who we bring in. Um, I think we always thought we should bring in the best writers, and we brought in remarkable writers, but they all looked a lot alike. And, were we bringing in the best white authors, or were we bringing in the best authors? And there's two very different groups. So we have definitely, and I think this city will benefit from that, benefit from hearing more diverse voices in an elevated platform like the library. Um, it's, you know, I think it's important, and I think we can do it, and we should do it, and people are happy that we do it.
I got a heavy hitter question. All right, Haroon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who's the one author that you brought in that you would like to punch in the face? I'm just joking. What I'm really
No, wait. Let's see if he's willing to answer. I don't. It's just, maybe he will, and maybe he won't. What was that you said before you hit record? You just like to charge forward, forge ahead. You like to forge ahead.
No, punch. I mean,
okay, maybe not assault.
Not assault, verbally.
No, I think I think routinely in terms of like that person has a very punchable face. The short answer is no. There are some, we have done there are a fair number of people who became writers because they have awful personalities. Nobody likes them. And they don't like other people either. So it works.
They might not like themselves either. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much loathing. So they just sit at their desk all alone, typing away, just banging out words like Haroon, somebody's going to love me.
I think when you reach middle age, you no longer really care if you're loved. I think that's the trick that nobody told you about. So I have a spin on this because I actually think it's a really interesting question. I want to go back to what I was saying earlier about I feel Cincinnati in the way in which I see people respond. So I guess I'll take Joey's question since I know, John, you're going to be too polite, and also you have a kind of vested interest in not doing that. Is there any have there been any authors or guests the reaction to whom surprised you, that maybe they didn't land, or the audience didn't connect with them, or maybe the audience did connect in ways you didn't expect?
Yeah, I remember, I'm not sure if this is an answer to your question, but it's an answer to a question.
Fair.
We brought in, this is like 3 years into my tenure, we brought in Chuck D. And yeah, I think he's one of the most important musicians of the last 50 years, easily. His lyrics are remarkable. And I thought like we had planted our flag. We had said, the Mercantile Library is now a different place. We are bringing in Chuck D. We are fighting the power now, goddammit. And we had like 500 people sign up. We had to move it out of our location to the Freedom Center. And I was so proud of us. I was like, this is it. We've arrived. And then I got up to the microphone to introduce them, and I looked out at the audience. And if there were 10 people of color in the audience, that was all of them. I mean, it was just like, I realized, wow, we haven't arrived. A lot of people like Chuck D. There was a lot of suburban kids listening to Chuck D driving their parents' Volvos really loud. So it was such a valuable lesson. I was like, okay, we're having the right conversations with the wrong people. So we have to have more conversations with more people. And he was amazing, and the audience loved him. And I was so proud of the audience for being there. And he was just, it was an incredible night, but it was the night I learned how far we have to go. Like, I'm not sure the Black community in Cincinnati knew he was there. That's how isolated we had become, how like siloed this institution was. And it was a screaming wake-up call for a very successful event. I mean, it was a remarkable event, but it was we needed to do better, and we have.
We're excited to share a new sponsor. The Brueggemann Center for Dialogue at Xavier University here in Cincinnati is dedicated to deepening understanding across faiths and promoting systemic change. You can learn more about the Brueggemann Center and Xavier University in the show notes. Now, back to the conversation.
The one thing that resonated with me there is your insistence on having the right conversation with the right people. As you think about this moment that we're living in right now, do you have any sense of what the right conversation is and who the right people are to have it with?
I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And the first smart thought that comes across my head, I promise to let you know. I'll have my own podcast. John's big idea, or John's idea. John's one good idea. I think we need to be. I mean, I'm like everyone else. I'm like, my lovely wife. Like a couple weeks ago, she was like, I said, "How are you doing?" Well, I learned a valuable lesson. Never ask that question again. She started crying about the state of affairs. And I think it was reasonable. Like, I have been using up the last drops of my white privilege by just ignoring as much of this as I possibly can. Because I have that right. I have that luxury. Not that right. I have that luxury. But that's not helping anybody. These are difficult times. These are trying times. We do need to talk about it. We do need to talk to each other. I go back and forth, kind of like I think a lot of people. Sometimes I think, oh, this is the end. This country won't recover. We're becoming two countries that can't talk to each other. We don't disagree anymore. I have to want to stab you in the heart because you are un-American. Just because we disagree on policy, which is absurd. And so, but every time I think we're at the end of the rope, we had a civil war. We had, in my lifetime, probably not in your lifetime, but we had college kids being shot by soldiers on their campus in Ohio. So we have been in very dark places. And I think we thought, certainly in that period, those 60s and 70s, the establishment thought that those kids were radical, and they were some. There was a lot of bombings taking place at that time in this country, which we've just kind of forgotten about. We've like, 68, yeah, those race riots, that was forever ago. Well, it wasn't forever ago. Some of those people are voting for Donald Trump today. like we've been down roads of us not liking each other before.
Yeah, I hear you. I heard you say in an interview in 2019 that the library particularly is a place kind of away from that polarized discourse, a place where you can have disagreement and come together, where you don't have to make everybody you disagree with into your enemy. I wonder how, like you said that in 2019, I'm pretty sure 6 years later, the discourse has only gotten more polarized, more difficult. How do you see the role of your work, of the library right now as it relates to the conversation that needs to be had?
Fuck them. they're on their own now. No, I think I do think we have actually. I think we have a moral obligation to be a place where people can come and disagree with each other. This calendar year in 2025, I'm starting a debate. I'm going to start a debate program where we pick the right subjects. We pick the right people to debate. And we just say, and we pick subjects that like people can change their minds. We're not going to debate abortion. No one's changing their mind at the Mercantile Library about that. But I think we can be a place where we can not only disagree with each other, but we can learn from each other. I mean, it's a magical place. Like people come in and it's almost reverential, like a church. Like you get quiet, you look up, you look around, you start speaking in hushed tones, and you see like this, like it's just like there's a lot of markers that say you're in a special place. And we have all been trained from like a young age. We love the library with like we go for story time, and it's just like everything's lovely about the library. And so I think a library has a huge obligation. That's a gift we've been given, and we shouldn't waste it. We could be terrible. The world needs discourse. Maybe not more than ever before, but as much as ever before. We gotta, I mean, and we're like, we're a cultural institution. We lean left. We do. I know we do. We've been called out on it. So I don't want us to be part of the problem.
So you're saying you lean left, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think there's something really interesting there that you touched on that I really want to spend a little bit of time with. Is libraries do create a sense of transcendence, whether that's in the physical, the way a space looks, the way it's designed, and I think those things are often discounted, which is why cookie cutter settings sometimes don't really propel us forward. But also in terms of what they contain, knowledge, a sense of connection to the past. And I'm wondering for you, and I know you and I have talked separately, and I think certainly all of us, I think, have talked about religion and faith. Do you feel like there's a sense of transcendence for you, whether in this moment or more broadly, a connection to religion? I mean, Cincinnati is certainly a place where religion plays a very important role historically and presently. And do you let that come into your work at the library, or is it something that you feel you have to keep separate?
Oh, I mean, I don't know how you would keep it separate, right? I mean, it's faith. I've been thinking about it a ton recently because I grew up Catholic. And so for Lent this year, I went to a different place of worship every Sunday. So I went to Presbyterian, just kind of dip my toes in the water. Don't want to go crazy. Then
keep in mind you're talking to a Muslim, so I'm not actually sure if Presbyterians are crazy now. So I feel like I've also got myself in trouble saying that, but just remember I have no idea what's happening.
I can tell you, they're as crazy, but they're not as good at dancers. So Presbyterians, Catholic. I had to go to a like non-denominational place where my mother lives. I went to a Dharma. I went to a Quaker house and I went to Crossroads at the end. And so I've been thinking a ton about religion and its role and where we are today just over the last few months. So yeah, I bring that faith to work and all those questions to work with me.
Why have you been thinking about this so much? Like, what propelled you to do this project during Lent?
I don't. I mean, I'm definitely a little bit of a searcher, a seeker, um, and I think like a lot of people, like had some serious disappointments with the Catholic Church. Um, I think it's. I grew up in a household that was you couldn't overstate how Catholic it was. Um, the church was extraordinarily important to my family, and I think you can make an argument that it's had a moral collapse. Um, the pedophilia, the cover up of the pedophilia, it was just like, and the increasingly getting into politics, which I find very disconcerting. It's one of the state of the church has been one of the great disappointments of my life, I would say. So I'm always looking for, um, but I keep going back to it. I mean, I ended my journey back at the Catholic Church because I wanted to hear him say Hallelujah on Easter. You can't shake that stuff. It's impossible. But I found some of those other religions to be delightful, and I was shocked at how much I loved Crossroads. Shocked. Just, I thought, no way, no how. The too slick. For people who aren't in Cincinnati, Crossroads is a new-ish, but new, very large church that has been. How else would you describe it, Haroon? It's
a mega church.
It's a mega church. Yeah.
I was actually
gonna go one further and say, and we can put it in the show notes, Joey, but the New York Times actually reviewed a book written by, I think, a professor at Johns Hopkins about Crossroads, and specifically how they responded to George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And it's a really surprising, intense, profound read. And the funny thing is, the mosque I attend for Friday prayers is directly across the street from Crossroads' location here in Mason, Ohio, the town I live in. And they very generously opened up their parking lot to our congregation. And so, there's just a lot of Muslims wheeling around Crossroads on a Friday afternoon. But I was going to say, and I didn't want to cut you off because I think that's quite beautiful. And I actually wanted to ask you, what you're saying about the church, I think it echoes, I think for a lot of people, the disappointments and frustrations we feel with our own faith tradition. Certainly, I think for me and for a lot of Muslims, there's definitely feelings of, sadness, sometimes even despair, frustration, alienation that comes with whether, sometimes it's a small personal experience with faith, or it's just the larger experience of being identified with a collective faith tradition that, both of our traditions number in the billions, and you sort of get drowned out. But I was going to ask, since you do run a library with a budget, and you have the ability to bring people in, are there any religious thinkers maybe that you find either particularly important to you or to this moment that you would love to bring in, that you think Cincinnati needs to hear from, or America needs to hear from?
Well, I certainly want to bring in that Johns Hopkins guy you just talked about. Yeah, all right. So the short answer is, I'm sure there are. I have not approached this topic in it. And this is going to sound like a cop-out, and it totally is, but it's also very elegant. I have not approached this topic in an intellectual way, because it doesn't feel intellectual to me. It feels spiritual, which is different for me. But now that you've mentioned it, yeah, I better figure out who these people are and bring them in, because I think I think it's fascinating. I, I think like a lot of middle-aged people, although I'm not even sure I'm allowed to still call myself middle-aged. Um, I'd have to
I
live.
think you're good.
I'd have to live till I was 118 for this to be the middle. Um, but I
Inshallah.
won't tell you how old I am. Um, I we'll bring in, yeah, let's bring some folks in. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Bring in some authors.
Yeah.
Have a religious
Have a
series.
religious revival at the library.
Yeah.
That sounds great. That sounds great. I think where it we both done some work and reading and listening to your story about getting this pancreas transplant. Um, I wonder if could you tell us that story, maybe in light, just to kind of connect this previous conversation, in light of your own spiritual and religious journey?
Um, yeah. So when I was a freshman in high school, I became diabetic, uh, type 1 juvenile. Um, we're not supposed to say type 1 or type 2 anymore, or juvenile or adult onset, because there is one diabetes community. And it turns out all the type 1 people were looking down their noses at the type 2 people. They're like, oh, you got it because you're lazy. So uh, when I was a freshman in high school, I came down with diabetes. No family history, just like a lightning bolt. Still a mystery as to how it chose me. Uh, and I was one for like 35 years, and I was pretty good at it. And then right about, well, about 11 years ago, I started being not good at it. My body, which I was a very, very good patient. Um, I am the least disciplined person I know, but I was really disciplined about diabetes. Um, and I was a good patient, and I was in good control, and I was in good health. And then all of a sudden, my body just said, hey, we're not doing this anymore. This treatment sucks. And my blood sugars were all over the place. And I had just moved to Cincinnati from Phoenix, Arizona, where I had seen my doctor every quarter for like 10 years. And every quarter for 10 years, they said, can I have a transplant, please? And she said, no, under no circumstances. You're in good shape. And the toll of a transplant is high. Stay the course, stay the course, stay the course. I moved to Cincinnati, and all of a sudden, out of left field, I was in terrible control. I was getting very sick, and I had a new doctor who just thought I was a terrible patient. I think she thought, like, what's the matter with this guy? Why won't he take it seriously? And so finally, I said, would you please call my doctor in Phoenix? And the doctor in Phoenix said, if he's not in good control, something's going on, because this is a good patient. He's not. I promise he's trying. And like a lot of doctors, the doctor listened to the not me, but the other doctor, um, which I was fine with, I guess. Um, and so this new doctor said you should consider a transplant, and I was like, okay. I've been considering one for a long time. And then about a year later, after you jump through a lot of hoops and you go on a transplant list, which is a type of existential crisis that I could not imagine. That 11 months I was on the transplant list were easily the hardest 11 months of my life. The waiting for something terrible to happen to another person. Um, the not being present with your family, like, 4 kids, newish town. And I don't think I was the best person that year. Um, I know I wasn't. And then you're waiting for someone to die in a car accident. which is terrible and particularly painful for me because my sister had died in a car accident and I got that phone call. So I am literally waiting for someone to experience death and their family to experience the worst thing in their life, which will be the best day I ever had. And that is just awful. Like there's no preparation for that. There's no, like when you wake up and you're just like you've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and when you wake up in the morning and it's raining out and your first thought is roads are going to be slick today, you're a monster. You are a ghoul. And then you find out like, oh, cars are so much safer than they used to be. You're like, oh, shit. Well, no, that's good news. It's almost impossible to die in a car wreck today. If like you need incredible, if you are wearing your seatbelt, you need incredible bad fortune. So what kind of a monster? Like I'm telling you, at the end of that year, I was thinking, and you really don't want to be on that list for a year because at the end of a year, you have to apply again. And the physicals that you go through are just extensive. And I wasn't sure I was going to do it. I was thinking I wasn't. I was like, I don't want to live like this. Which is easy to say when you have 45 days to make up your mind. But I have a feeling on day 45, it would have said, yeah, put my name back on that list. Anyway, I got the transplant. Really bad luck, car accident, about 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now. A wonderful young woman in her 20s with 4 children, died in a car wreck on her way to work, like at 6 a.m, going to the post office because she worked at the post office in the morning and she was going to University of Cincinnati in the afternoon. And then she had a second job, and she was also a mom of 4 kids and a young woman. And, you think you want a good transplant, you want a good pancreas. And then you're like, oh, I didn't want a woman in her 20s with 4 kids. You're like, couldn't there be some 35-year-old writer who nobody liked? So then you get it. I got it. I just had my 10th anniversary on All Saints Day, November 1st, the day after Halloween. And incredibly fortunate, got the transplant. And then I got really, 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 really sick. I thought I got the transplant because I wanted to take control of my health and wellness. And I'm a fool. I'm going to die because of it. This is my thinking at the time. I am getting so sick. In the 6 weeks after the transplant, I was hospitalized 7 times. I was in intensive care. I was, it was like doctors are asking if your affairs are in order. And you're like, well, no. As a matter of fact, they are not in order. So do your job, sir. My affairs are still not in order. I am quite convinced that is what keeps me alive. Although clearly it's time for a will. Past time for a will. I got very sick. I really thought I was going to die. One night in particular, I was like, okay, this is it. I am going to wake up dead. And didn't. Just incredible fortune, great care, from doctors and nurses at University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Um, I ended up not dying. And I haven't been sick a day since. I have like, I'm an incredibly fortunate man who has had probably some physical curveballs thrown at him, I think is a safe way to say it. And going to be 60 years old this year. I feel like $1,000,000. I feel like I'm 30. Um, my hair looks like it's 80, but I feel like I'm 30. And that was, you know, another inflection point. Like
Yeah.
when I was before the transplant, I didn't think I would start every decade that ended in every birthday. Like when I turned 20, I had been diabetic for like 7 or 8 years. And, care's gotten a lot better. But when I turned 20, I was like, let me be alive and functioning well at 30. And then when I turned 30, I was like, let me be alive at 40. Yeah, at 40, I was like, please, let me get to 50. Um, and then you get to 50 and you get a transplant. And now, like when I turn 60 this summer, I am not going to be saying, please please let me get to 70. I mean, I probably will because it's done well for me over these decades. But I think I'm going to live now. I think I'm immortal, pretty
Yeah,
much.
you think you're a mid man now. You think you're
now I am a mid man.
Exactly.
I thought I wasn't qualified for the show. I'm finally qualified because I pushed out the back end so much.
Turns out you are. I think the moment of getting that transplant that sort of collapses the Lenten period into resurrection and death, right? All in one day. That just feels like an incredibly poignant and powerful moment. I can't imagine you not living with a sense of beholdenness to that woman, to a sense of renewal in terms of your purpose and life. So powerful, powerful story. Haroon, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, I think after that story, I think something that really hit is, for me, I think Cincinnati was a kind of second chance, or I mean, I think we were, in terms of ordinal numbers, I think we were well beyond second or third or fourth at that point. But I think moving here and being here and marrying the right person, all of that, I think it changed my life. I'm someone who lost the genetic lottery in that regard. I mean, I've had multiple health conditions from a very early age. One of them actually concerns the pancreas, which we can unpack on a separate episode, just about the pancreas. But
pancreas theories, people are,
yeah. Joey looks really excited right now. But
it's one of the least understood organs, Joey.
it is, and thank God for
there's some Lebanese ingredients in the pancreas or something, John. Are you gonna make that argument again?
the pancreas is to the body.
That's what everyone thought. They were Jordanian.
It's a Jordanian pancreas. But I was at Harvard a few weeks ago, and they picked three. They did a series highlighting three Harvard professors, one of whom worked on AI, one of whom worked on government and corruption, the third of whom actually worked on the pancreas, and talked about pancreatic enzymes. Is fascinating, but that's not the question I wanted to ask. The question I wanted to ask is, if you see this as a second chance or a renewal of life, or as an opportunity to continue, I wonder how you frame that. I think some people see in religion a kind of validation, like I was meant to live. God has a purpose for me. I know that always doesn't resonate with people, and I fully understand why. I'm wondering if there's a way you see it spiritually that might have changed for you, or that perhaps is just an extension of how you've kind of always seen your place in the world.
I'm certain I don't understand your question, so I'm forging ahead. Uh, I think, like a lot of people, like they get, like they have a near death or vaguely near enough, a death adjacent experience. Um, and you think like tomorrow, the next day, I'm appreciating everything. I'm smelling all the flowers. I am peaceful and patient and kind. You are for couple minutes, a couple weeks, maybe a few months. If you really want to work on it, but you become your best. You become your true self. I became my true self again. I don't smell any roses. Um, but that's not to say it didn't change me profoundly. It just changed me in different ways. Um, it, 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 it humbled me. Like, I was completely not in control of my fate. Other people were. That's very humbling. Um, it certainly made me more empathic, which I think is a, oddly a controversial word in 2025. Somehow it's being an empath is a sign of weakness, I think. I'm not exactly sure, but it certainly made me more empathic. Um, I've I do feel an overriding debt to Lexi, this woman who died in a car accident and gave me her pancreas. I feel like I owe her, certainly. Um, it, you know, this faith stuff is so tricky. Just the concept of God is complicated and hard to wrap your head around. And it's bad when, like, I heard a comedian say, God is the name of the blanket we throw over our faith to give it shape. Because it's a mystery. And we have constructed this God and religion, but I think a lot of it, and again, this is a comedian who's telling the story that he heard from like a drummer. And all of this is true. But she has shape. She has form. This woman who gave me her pancreas, I can see. I'm friends with her husband on Facebook. Like, she's a real person. She was a real person. And that made religion easier when you can see it. But
I love that, John. That's powerful. I think in the Christian tradition, they talk about the person of Christ literally being identified with the orphan, the widow, the least of these, the people who we consider the other. So I think like there is precedent within theological tradition of saying actually this person takes the form of divinity for you.
yeah,
I got one more question, then you're gonna get out of here. Okay, so make it punchy, land the plane. Here you go. This is your opportunity. Um, what do you
Ready.
what do you owe Lexi or God with your life now as a result of this experience?
I I have to try to be a good person. I have to I mean I I we're all so flawed. We are all like just on a practical level, what I owe Lexi is to be a better listener. like, I don't know that I've been the best listener in my life. I've, I'm the guy who was trying to think of what to say next because it was going to be so smart and so funny. Well, that's insanely selfish. So I think on a practical level that doesn't sound very exciting or exalting, I think I owe it to her to be a better listener, to listen to when Libby says, I'm actually having a terrible day, to just stop everything and be like, okay, all right, hold on. All this other shit can wait. To be present, to be in the room. I remember when I was becoming a dad and I was nervous. And I think I have 4 kids. I think I've been a good dad, but I was told, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need to do to be a good dad? And I was told, I'd read, not from a comedian who was quoting a drummer, but it said, be in the room. And when you're in the room, be present. Don't be in the room on your phone. Be in the room. And I think being in the room, that was the best lesson I heard for being a parent. Be present. Be there. Be physically proximate and be emotionally proximate. If you can figure out how to be a good parent, you're going to figure out how to be a good person. And you don't have to be a parent you can be an uncle. You can be whatever. You can be a stepfather. I've tried to be more present, more in the room. I think that leads you to being a better person and closer to your ideal self. And that's all we can be, is try your damnedest. I'm still awful in so many ways. I could carry a grudge. It's like they have handles. I can carry it for 1,000,000 years. My ex-wife said to me once, she's like, you're just so angry. Why are you so angry? And I was like, how the hell else do you get out of bed in the morning? So that's wasted energy. So I'm working on all of this stuff, and I'm working on it for Alexis.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Zach Swellbar for recording our theme music. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know what questions we should be asking and who else we should be talking to. For the next episode, we'll be speaking with Zakir Tamiz. We talk about his book, Charles Sumner, Conscious of a Nation, which bridges personal identity and an American history. He talks about why a young Muslim guy chose to tell the story of a 19th century abolitionist and shows how neglected narratives of Reconstruction and civil rights can inspire today. Woven throughout the conversation are themes of faith, courage, solidarity, and the shared responsibility of all Americans to claim, tell, and act upon their history.